Avram Iancu was a Transylvanian Romanian lawyer who played an important role in the local chapter of the Austrian Empire Revolutions of 1848 to 1849. He was especially active in the Țara Moților region and the Apuseni Mountains. The rallying of peasants around him, as well as the allegiance he paid to the Habsburg, got him the moniker Crăișorul Munților. Early life. Avram Iancu was born in București, Transylvania, then part of the Austrian Empire, into a family of peasants that had been emancipated from serfdom. His father was Alexandru Iancu and his mother was Maria Gligor. He had one elder brother, Ion, who became a priest. Avram Iancu's grandfather was Gheorghe Iancu, who had 7 children, girls, Santiaoana, Maria, Zamfira and Anna, boys, Alexandru, Avram and Ioan. Little is known today about Avram Iancu's childhood. It is known, by local tradition, that he had a typical Mo character, joyful and witty, and he played well the leaf, alp, horn, flute and violin. Avram Iancu attended primary school in his village, in the Tarsa hamlet. His was Mihai Gumbos. After a while, he was sent by his parents at the school in Negri village. Further, he attended a school from Campeni, Alba County, his teacher being Mihai Ioan. He graduated the Campeni school at age 13. After this, he went to school in Zlatna, where he studied in a Hungarian school, in the Latin language, as Romanian schools didn't exist in this area. His teachers were Iosif Stancan, Gregorius Iacobuz and Ludovicus Kovacs. He graduated at age 17. He studied humanities from 1841, in the Piarist College of Cluj, graduating law school. Initial stages of 1848 revolutions. Avram Iancu became a law clerk in Târgu Mureș, and it was there that he learned about the events of March 1848 of Vienna and Pest. His attitude at the time showed the nature of the conflict that was to engulf Transylvania. While Iancu welcomed the transition, he was indignant at the fact that Hungarian revolutionaries refused to debate the abolition of serfdom. In the Apuseni Mountains, he started rallying peasants in Campeni. The protests he organized were recognized as peaceful by the authorities but nevertheless worried them. Iancu and his associate Ioan Buteanu quickly became the main figures of the Romanian-led actions in the area, especially after they took part in the Blaj assemblies starting in April, where over 40,000 Romanians met to protest against Transylvania becoming a part of Hungary. In Blaj, both opted for the main, radical wing of the movement, centered on Alexandru Papiu Ilarian. The group opposed the Hungarian revolutionary option of uniting Transylvania and Hungary. It got into conflict with the minority wing around Greek Catholic Bishop Ioan Lemene, one which chose not to boycott the elections for the Hungarian parliament. While the union was carried out on May 30, 1848, the majority of Romanian activists looked towards Vienna and Emperor Ferdinand, sharing the cause of the Transylvanian Saxons. Things became heated after July 11, when Hungary declared its independence. Austria started to open itself to the Romanian demands, while bloody conflicts ensued between the Hungarian nobles and the Romanian serfs. The last assembly in Blaj saw the Habsburg governor, Anton Fraier von Puchner, approve of the arming of National Guards for Romanians and Saxons. On September 27, the lynching of Austrian plenipotentiary Count Lemberg by a Pest crowd cut off any dialogue between the two centers. The new Emperor Franz Joseph and the Austrian government granted the Romanians numerous liberties and rights, although Lajos Kossuth's government abolished serfdom. This was no longer a match for the imperial offer. Conflict. Outbreak. The Austrians clearly rejected the October demand that the ethnical criteria become the basis for internal borders, with the goal of creating a province for Romanians, as they did not want to replace the threat of Hungarian nationalism with the potential of Romanian separatism. Yet they did not declare themselves hostile to the rapid creation of Romanian administrative offices within Transylvania, one which prevented Hungary from including the region in all but name. The territory was organized in prefecture, with Avram Iancu and Budeanu as two prefects in the Apuseni. Iancu's prefecture, the Oraria Gemina, became the most important one as it took over from bordering areas that were never really fully organized. In the same month the administrative efforts were put to a halt, as Hungarians under Joseph Bem carried out a sweeping offensive through Transylvania. With the discreet assistance of Imperial Russian troops, the Austrian army and the Austrian Romanian administration retreated to Wallachia and Wallachia Oltenia. Attrition. On the 8th of November, Avram Iancu, along with his 4,000 combatants of the Oraria Gemina Legion, took part in joint military actions with Austrian forces. The legion reached Turda, and the city surrendered without a fight on the 20th of November. Then, he and his troops returned to the mountains. On the 29th of November, Avram Iancu had another 1,500 troops mobilized for action. On the 4th of December, he reached Săculiu, and on 6 to 7 December, he and his men were ordered to attack the enemy lines by surprise. However, the attack failed, due to the incompetence of an Austrian officer, and the Romanians were forced to withdraw by the 10th of December. By early January 1849, Transylvania was almost entirely conquered by the Hungarian army. The Romanian fighters holding out in the mountains stronghold were running low of supplies, having only 800 rifles to arm a few thousand men, and were completely surrounded by Hungarian troops by the end of March. In April 1849, Iancu was approached by the Hungarian envoy Ioan Dragos. Dragos appeared to have been acting out of his own desire for peace, since Iancu's troops were tearing down too many Hungarian troops, about 10,000. A third of the Hungarian army in Transylvania, according to Hungarian General János Czeks. He worked hard to get the Romanian leaders to meet him in abroad and listen to the Hungarian demands. Iancu's direct adversary, Hungarian commander Imre Hatvany, seems to have taken profit on the provisional armistice to attack the Romanians in abroad. He did not, however, benefit from a surprise, as Iancu and his men retreated and then encircled him. In the meanwhile, Dragos was lynched by the abroad crowds, in the belief that he was part of Hatvany's ruse. Hatvany also angered the Romanians by having Budeanu captured and murdered. While his position became weaker, he was permanently attacked by Iancu's men, until the major defeat of May 22. Hatvany and most of his armed group were massacred by their adversaries, as Iancu captured the cannons, switching the tactical advantage for the next months. Hatvany's troops lost 5,000 soldiers and all of their artillery. Kossuth was angered by Hatvany's gesture, especially since it made future negotiations unlikely. On the 8th of June, the Romanian stronghold in the mountains was attacked by the largest Hungarian force yet. 4,000 men supported by 19 cannons led by General Kemeny Farkas. The battle lasted between 11 and the 17th of June and ended in a crushing victory for the Romanians, the Hungarians having at least 500 troops killed during the battle. The Russian intervention in June precipitated anticipated events, especially since Poles fighting in the Hungarian revolutionary contingents wanted to see an all-out resistance to the Tsarist armies. People like Henryk Dębinski mediated for an understanding between Kossuth and the Wallachian émigré revolutionaries. The latter, understandably close to Avram Iancu, were also keen to inflict a defeat on the Russian armies that had crushed the movement in September 1848. Fighting also continued in July. During the peace negotiations on 2, 4, and the 22nd of July, all Hungarian attacks being repulsed yet again. Finally, the conflict ended on the 29th of July, as Avram Iancu offered a guarantee to the Hungarian troops that he would not attack them, allowing them to withdraw in front of the Austro-Russian offensive. Negotiations. Balcescu and Kossuth met in May 1849 in Debrecen. The contact has for long been celebrated by Romanian Marxist historians and politicians. Karl Marx's condemnation of everything opposing Kossuth had led to any Romanian initiative being automatically considered reactionary. In fact, it appears that the agreement was in no way a pact. Kossuth meant to flatter the Wallachians by getting them to champion the idea of Iancu's armies leaving Transylvania for good, in order to help Balcescu in Bucharest. While agreeing to mediate for peace, Balcescu never presented these terms to the fighters in the Apuseni. His personal documents show that the unrealistic assumptions of Kossuth had made him viewed the Hungarian leader as a demagogue. Even more contradictory, the only thing Avram Iancu agreed to was his forces' neutrality in the conflict between Russia and Hungary. Thus, he secured his position as the Hungarian armies suffered defeats in July, culminating in the Battle of Sigosvár, and then the capitulation of August 13. Later years, Avram Iancu agreed to disarm as soon as the Austrians took over, and wrote a detailed report to the new governor of Transylvania, General Ludwig von Wolgemuth. In order to avoid suspicion of Romanian separatism, the document does not mention the contacts with the Wallachians. As the Austrians granted the abolition of serfdom, they also forbade all representative institutions in Transylvania, while Hungarian nationalism was slowly fitting in the pattern that would make the Ausgleich acceptable for both sides involved. The Romanian option raised more and more irritation. The revolutionary zeal it had found under Iancu, although profiting the monarchy, could also prove to be a weapon used for very different goals. It is very possible that Iancu was not able to properly observe the changes. While decision for his initial arrest was quickly overturned after local protests, he was censored throughout his life, had his library confiscated, and was placed under surveillance. He was even arrested a second time, in 1852, after it was presumed that his presence alone served to inflame local sentiments. Soon after his release, Iancu visited Vienna and attempted to petition the emperor. He was prevented by the police, a public humiliation which provoked a nervous breakdown from which he never recovered. Avram Iancu died on September 10, 1872 at Baia de Cris. His body was buried, according to his wish, under Horia's tree in Eby.